Good afternoon. I'm Shirley Hyman Parker, Director at Large, and like others of you, I've been having a great time. I've certainly enjoyed connecting with friends and colleagues and gaining new knowledge about family and consumer sciences. At this time, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to those who are joining us virtually today. Although we wish you were here with us in person, we're so happy that you are able to join us via internet live stream. And now, please help me to welcome our association's Executive Director, Carolyn Jackson, CSCF, to the stage.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Good afternoon. Advocacy often shows up as either top on the list of priorities for our members of our Family and Consumer Sciences Associations or near the top. And we have been doing a lot of advocating here in St. Louis. Do you know that in addition to all of those in person, our opening general session, that we have had over 300 persons that were part of that session virtually through the live streaming opportunity? That's right. Or in watching the recordings. So we just think that's terrific. And through social media, we've created quite a buzz here at our conference in St. Louis, and we really appreciate what you've done to get the word out about what's going on. In addition to that, and that could be part of the reason that we've had some of those hits on our recording, and that is that Carol Warehand from Pittsburgh State University was interviewed by NPR out of Philadelphia while she was here. In fact, it was Thursday right after the general session. And this is a follow-up from a Wall Street Journal article that was written by Ruth Graham, who had written an article for the Boston Globe. And it's similar to many that we've seen over this last year, particularly last several years, and is about bringing back home economics. So we appreciate Carol and her efforts to clarify what we're doing in family and consumer sciences today, especially in the area of education. I have several guests that are going to join me today, so they'll be coming out from behind the curtain, and I'm pleased to have them. And while they are getting seated, I wanted to share with you that several of them are AAFCS Leadership Academy participants. They are new professionals and graduating seniors in our field. They're interested in increasing their leadership capacity through programming on leadership development, networking or building a cohort of their colleagues, being mentored by professionals that can provide a sounding board as well as sage advice. So there are flyers around about the program. They are gearing up for the next class, and so I think you'll be interested in what happens with this great new initiative on building the capacity of some of our new professionals. For those of you who are in the audience that are a part of the Leadership Academy class of 2013, would you go ahead and stand? And if you've been a mentor to one of those participants, would you also stand? Barbara Walters was supposed to do this, but she retired, so. Okay, as I mentioned before, we have Leadership Academy participants as part of our panel today. Our first one is Ashley Davis, and she is a teacher from Minnesota, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how they came up with their name for their class.
All right, so class of 2013 Leadership Academy was kind of a long name, so we decided to call ourselves the Outliers, which is based on Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers, where he identifies them as people who are highly successful.
Okay, so I think as we've heard that term, some have had a different interpretation of that. So it's been nice to be able to explain that that's really a positive thing, and they are out there in front. So one of your projects, we understand, has to do with what kinds of careers there are in family and consumer sciences. So tell us about FACES.
Sure. So we were assigned with doing 4 different projects for the Leadership Academy, and one of them was called the FACES Project. And for this project, we are collecting a series of digital profiles of individuals who credit family and consumer sciences for their success. Ideally, we are looking for people to send in videos or a series of photos that describe their story and their success story with family and consumer sciences.
And we all know that we can work in traditional positions in family and consumer sciences as well as transfer those skills to other areas. So even as we were chatting, getting ready for this, we were giving Ashley some recommendations on Bubba Watson, our pro golf player, who's a graduate, and some others. So, well, do you have enough or do you need more stories?
Yes, and this is where I'm asking for your help. We're looking for as many stories as we can, and our hopes is to create a kind of a marketing campaign to promote AAFCS as well as family and consumer sciences. So if you are interested in making a profile, or if you know of someone who you think would be good at making a profile, I would love their information. And you can look for my contact information. We'll be sending it out through emails, through the fast fax. We're going to bombard you, basically, with this campaign.
And of course, she's looking for a variety of those that are from different backgrounds and going into different parts of our field or non-traditional areas and careers. I know some of the other organizations, NASAFACS and FCCLA, are zeroing in more on family and consumer sciences education careers, and so we'll have lots of resources to share about what you can do in family and consumer sciences. Thank you. Next, we have Ella Harper, who is a teacher, secondary teacher from Tennessee, and she's also a Leadership Academy participant, an outlier, and she's going to tell us a little bit about sort of where they found themselves a year ago as secondary teachers in family and consumer sciences in Tennessee.
Last May, 2013, teachers were getting emails asking us for our input on the standards in family and consumer sciences, what needs to be changed. We had no idea at that point what was coming, but the standards were changed. We found that the Family and Consumer Science entry-level course for 9th graders was dropped from our curriculum. It was replaced with a course identified as Introduction to Human Services, and the standards were very, very rigorous, and a lot of people and teachers and faculty at universities found themselves wondering if this was a little bit too rigorous for the average high school 9th and 10th grader to do. As we looked at this, the TATFACS board decided we needed to meet and discuss this because a lot of people were unaware of what was happening.
And so end result is you came together with a white paper and...
Correct. We came together, met, and Melinda Swafford wrote, and she was our lead on the white paper. A lot of us at the secondary level were really afraid to have our names associated with it for fear of job loss because there was a lot of mixed feelings. It was not well received by the teachers. So as a result, she took the initiative as a collaborative effort with our board. We wrote this white paper, and it was submitted to the CTE director and curriculum development director at the state level.
And your results were not quite what you'd hoped they would be.
No, we did not get family and consumer science back, even though we had advocated for it and the importance and value of having that as an entry-level course. However, they did redo their standards and made them more appropriate for 9th and 10th graders.
And in looking back over the last year, maybe even the last 6 months, sort of what were your observations or lessons learned or things that you might do differently?
I think we all definitely need to advocate on the front end, be proactive rather than reactive. A lot of times your students can be your best advocates, as well as their parents. You know, just make sure that everyone is aware of what we do and how important it is.
Thank you so much. And next we have Lauren Giannotti. She's president of the Virginia affiliate of Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. And actually, we thought this was a really good sort of pair up because years ago, 4 or 5, they found themselves in Virginia with the threat of eliminating some extension positions. And so you're seeing a trend here that's not, a surprise to you. But they really got active and have started something that has been institutionalized. And I'll have Lauren talk about that at this point.
Yes. I think it was 5 years ago, we found out through the fact that Virginia had a legislative monitor that was on a paid staff member, not paid a lot, but our General Assembly would meet for 6 weeks at the beginning of the year, each year, and her husband happened to be a delegate, and she happened to be a retired extension agent, so it was a nice fit. She was already in town during that period of time. What happened was we found out that our university, land-grant university, and some of the legislators had decided in a way to, save money, they were going to try to eliminate Family and Consumer Sciences extension agents. So we started writing letters. We had some intervention, very small intervention that year, but it did help that there was one husband as a delegate who was well aware of what Family and Consumer Sciences agents could do in their communities. And it seemed like our more urban areas were in favor of cutting back. Our more rural legislators seemed to appreciate and know, what we were about. Anyways, we stopped that at that point, but we realized as an organization that we had to do more. We had to be more visible, we had to be more active, and we took it from there that year. The president that year came to me. I was the vice president of public policy at the time, and we formed a plan. The next year, we decided to visit the Capitol in mass as much as we could, and really have a marketing program to market our brand. Luckily, AAFCS had started to come together with the Alliance members and form our brand, the Family and Consumer Sciences brand, and we took it and ran. We loved it and produced a whole kind of public awareness campaign for our legislators.
Well, and I understand when you started this, you thought, well, sort of what issues do we focus on? And so you went to the AAFCS resolutions?
She loved this answer. But really, I was new. I mean, I know a lot of people, and maybe they might not be in the room. If you're a president and you have a vice president of public affairs and they have no idea where to start, go to the webpage. Go to our website. If you go to the advocacy section and you really read it and look at it, you'll see so much information on not only the technical part about, how to write your legislator and this type of thing, but really what does AAFCS stand for? What are our resolutions that we've passed over the years? Where have we supported families and issues over many, the whole breadth of our existence. So I believe the online resolutions go back to about early 70s or late 60s. I know, I looked them all up. So anyways, with that in hand and really looking at the more current issues like the first year it was bisphenol A, BPA in plastics. We were trying to raise awareness about that the first year. The next 2 years, we centered on obesity, childhood obesity, obesity in the population, and we focused on those issues when we went to the Capitol. While you're focusing on an issue that's important to our organization, you're also providing public awareness as to who we are. And these meetings are open to every one of our Alliance members. We downplay, just to let you know real quick, we downplay the AAFCS. We're sponsored by VAFCS, hosted by that, but the meeting itself is open to all of our Alliance members, and we try to play that up so we can speak from one voice.
Thank you, and that's certainly appropriate. We just love using that photograph of them on their state capitol steps with the big FCS banner, and you can see the red jackets from FCCLA, as well as I guess they all decided to sort of look alike by wearing red jackets, and that has been memorable and made quite an impression. So, and now again, this is an annual event that you do, you've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes, that's correct. We try to do it right in the middle of the general session, when right after crossover, when the bills from one house go to the next. It's a little bit of a down day, so we can get in there and try to talk to our legislators.
Thank you so much. And you heard a little bit right there about strategy, leaving something behind that was memorable, that was attached to the issue, and then also the timing of their visit. Next, we have Linda Kirk-Fox, who is a dean of the College of Family and Consumer Sciences at University of Georgia. And they do something similar in droves going to their state capital. And so, Linda, tell us a little bit about your event.
Great, I'd be glad to. Family and Consumer Sciences Day at the Capitol is the 3rd week of February, and it's unique in that we really bring a lot of the students and the young people involved. So there's a focus that they see policy making in action, that they meet and understand where decision makers are, and that they feel more empowered, we hope, in the future as citizens. So we talk about the university students, high school students, and 4-H youth. So it also is dependent upon our associations and the university working together. So the Association for the State for Georgia Family and Consumer Sciences Association, they help us with a resolution so that we have activity in the galleries of the House and the Senate. The Extension Association for Family and Consumer Sciences, where the agents will also participate in the FACS Day at the Capitol, particularly having an opportunity to make appointments and meet with their representatives and senators, because you know all politics are local. We also then have their help because they will help with the proclamation. So from the university, we are 75 miles away, so it's a doable bus trip. Last year we had 2 bus loads, over 80 students, and this again is dependent upon the faculty in our college that are teaching policy-focused courses. And so they have preparation of students, they understand what they'll be doing that day. But we have great events. We meet the governor and have, of course, the important photo opportunity. They're introduced in the House and the Senate galleries. We have a chance to speak to the importance of the profession. So we want large numbers, heightened visibility. We don't want to wait for a crisis. We're going to be there every year.
And as you were telling us about this, you talked about what you felt like was the real key to use those young people. Tell us more.
Yes, and I'll tell you something else that we have that's been in the college for 30 years, and it's a fantastic program, and I encourage you to consider it in your university or colleges. And that is an internship program where the students are legislative aid. The members of the Senate or the House in your state capital don't have a lot of staff, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and so the representatives really value having an intern. So at our university, you're talking the School of Public and International Affairs and Family and Consumer Sciences. What better college to have interns, spring semester, college students that are assigned to the representatives? It's huge in terms of goodwill. They understand and appreciate the bright college students and see them as the future. Then these students also help on the day of the Capitol. They are the ones that are telling the other college students in their class what it really is like to be behind the scenes, what is going on, what it takes to have a bill pass. And I think it really is the student-to-student voice that, again, helps us in the future get all of our students thinking about politics. Perhaps they'll be the lobbyist. We have a lobbyist who's a graduate of our program speak to our students. So they really get a much bigger picture. And the representatives come speak to the students, again, 80 college students who are of voting age. They want to be seen in front of them as making a difference in the state of Georgia.
So Ashley, there's another one you need to have a story from, the person who's a lobbyist and from our field and background. So I just think, I mean, isn't that great to have a legislative aid from Family and Consumer Sciences consistently year after year at your state capitol? And as I understand, Brittany Trotter, who is one of our recent student unit officers, national officers, did the legislative aid program. She now works for Goodwill, and Linda was telling me that she's thinking about law school. Is that?
That's correct. And I want to say that we have 6 legislative aid interns, not just one. Yeah. So have several, they support each other as well.
So again, her emphasis is on volume. They talk about having consistent messages when they go to these legislators, to really have a presence, be very visible, be very memorable, either by what's worn, what's left behind. Lauren was sharing with us sort of a flyer that's left behind talking about family and consumer sciences. These are really pretty common sense, but often overlooked parts of advocacy, going consistently year after year. I think, Linda, you said you go early in the session, and whereas Lauren talked about after crossover day.
Yeah, that is correct.
So I'm going to wrap up in just a bit. Is there anything else that any of you as panelists have to say, one thing that you would sort of charge the audience with or recommend? Okay, Lauren.
The affiliates have to put their money where their priorities are. So if you as an affiliate feel like, and I know we don't have any money, okay? I get that. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. But if you as an affiliate feel like your professional association should promote a little more locally what you do, who you are, why you're important, you need to put a little money in your budget for that. That's what we had to do. When the president came to me and said, let's do a meeting at the Capitol, I said, show me the money. You know, give me a little bit of money in the budget and we'll take it from there.
And with the priority that, again, as I mentioned in the introduction, it's such a high priority for our members that we do seem to find ways to find it when there is the need there. Anything else from anybody? I have 2 other success stories that I wanted to share. One comes from the Northeast, and it's New Hampshire. This last year, when New Hampshire affiliate president, her name is Kay Shubash, found out that family and consumer sciences was going to be left out of a minimum education standards that were being revisited. She led a fight. We'd sometimes fight. A letter writing campaign to get back into the high school level, or get it back into the high school level standards. And they were successful. With family and consumer sciences and the education standards now, they'll be there for at least the 7 years until it's revisited. And I bet you they're going to be doing some of these annual advocacy efforts to help maintain that. The New Hampshire affiliate is also working with uniform curriculum based on national standards, and it's to be used in family and consumer sciences classes across the state. They're also looking at recruiting more teachers, so we know that that's a real big part of this. The other one comes at higher education level, and that would be the University of Akron in Ohio. When the University of Akron Family and Consumer Sciences professor in child development, Pam Schultz, found out that there was consideration of elimination of their program, she started to take action. She immediately began to reach out to some of their stakeholders, their professional network, through social media, collecting data to show the value of the program, started a cause page, which was kind of on the cover slide to this section, and garnered support through 500 signatures. With these actions and a letter of support from AAFCS, leadership and support from a faculty senate president and a program review committee, they were able to successfully state their case and save their programs. So as you can see by these stories, it's not a sit by and let things happen. These are people that really want to take action. So we appreciate so much you all sharing your story with us today and that you took action in advocacy. Thank you. A year ago at the Capstone General Session, we got you all enthused about an event that culminated this week in St. Louis. It's the Little Black Dress and Tie event. Remember, we had people in teams and went backstage to create their dresses. And so on Thursday evening, we had our Little Black Dress and Tie Gala, as well as cocktails and conversations with our Project Runway winner, Seth Aaron Henderson, who also is an advocate for our field. He took Family and Consumer Sciences classes in high school. He says that his teacher told him he would never make it. And here, he said later he realized that was just her way of challenging him to do his best. So that was lots of fun. We had a silent auction, a raffle. Are we supposed to say raffle? A ticket sales, historic costume collection show, and a parade of people coming down the red carpet in their little black dresses and black ties. So through this, it had always been developed as a fundraiser to raise funds for advocating for Family and Consumer Sciences program, and we were able to generate over $10,000 in one night. So. Again, when you have the right cause, you can come up with the money. And I get to go home with a cowboy boot that's signed by Reba McEntire. I'm so excited. Well, really, it's for my uncle, who's a country western fan, and he'll never know how much I paid for it. I only got one boot. It's obviously not for wearing. So I think I'm going to have to talk to the Oklahoma affiliate about that and see if I can get a left foot, too. So you've heard from your colleagues about advocacy action, and I challenge each of you today to be proactive, to educate the public and decision makers about the value of our field, to create a circle of supporters and key stakeholders that will speak up on your behalf, to stay abreast of what's happening at the local, state, and national level. You snooze, you lose. And when necessary, you react. React quickly and decisively. Good things do not always come to those who wait. In closing, I would just say it is my honor and my privilege to be your executive director. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Shirley Hyman Parker back to the stage.
Thank you, Carolyn. At this time, it is my pleasure to recognize our donors and those who gave generously contributions and helping to make a real difference for our association programs and services. The entire honor roll has been on display in the exhibit hall during the conference, and it includes the Legacy Society, those who have remembered AAFCS in their estate plans. It also includes persons who have made non-dues contributions during the program year at designated giving levels. Contributions are from year-end appeals, Distinguished Service Award honorary funds, check-off options on the renewal forms, and support of scholarships, endowments, and special projects. With all of our 2013-2014 donors, please stand together and receive recognition. Your collective, please stand. All around. Your collected contributions accounted for 11.5% of our association's revenue during our fiscal year 2014. Thank you for all that you have done to support the programs of AAFCS. Now, Director of Affiliate Jane Walker will introduce today's keynote speaker.
Thank you, Shirley. We're happy to welcome to the stage Ms. Marsha Wallace, one of the leading change agents transforming women's and girls' lives across the world Marsha Wallace is the founder and most public face of Dining for Women, a giving circle dedicated to increasing gender equity and reducing global poverty. An obstetrics nurse and educator for 20 years, Marsha is a leading proponent for the idea that anyone, right where they are, can powerfully ease poverty, HIV/AIDS, sex trafficking, illiteracy, and other causes that impede the progress and threaten the overall well-being of women and girls around the world. Founded in 2003, Dining for Women has more than 400 chapters and over 8,000 active members. DFW has been showcased by the New York Times, Women's Day Magazine, Good Morning America, The Today Show, and NBC Nightly News. Over the last 10 years, they have raised $2.8 million for women and girls living in extreme poverty in more than 30 countries. Please join me in welcoming Marsha Wallace.
Hi, everybody. I am really, really excited to be here, to have the opportunity to talk with you about global women's empowerment and how empowering women contributes to healthy families and stable societies. Is this not turned on? Ah, there it goes. I would like to start by telling you the inspiring story of Caroline Hessian. Caroline is a young woman whom I met in 2010 on a Dining for Women trip to Kenya. Every morning, Caroline would get up and watch her brothers head off to school, and she really, really wanted to go with them, and she would ask her dad, please, may I go? But Caroline was not going to school because Caroline is of the Maasai tribe. And traditionally in the Maasai tribe, girls don't receive an education. Their job is to take care of their siblings, to tend the animals, to get water, to cook and clean. And then they're married at very, very early ages, sometimes as young as 9 or 10 years old. And their caretaking jobs continue with their own husbands and families. But Caroline was a persistent young woman. And her father finally relented and sent her to school, and she immediately rose to the top of her class. And when it came time for her to go to secondary school, her dad agreed to send her. He had to sell a cow to raise the money for her tuition. But she went to secondary school, and she remained at the top of her class. When the second year for her to start arrived, her father had not saved the money that he had promised for her tuition, and she was absolutely devastated. She couldn't force herself to go back home to her village, so she stayed with a friend. She got food wherever she could get it, and she would even go sit outside the classroom windows to listen to the lessons. She wanted so badly to learn. She was fortunate enough to be introduced to Barbara Shaw, founder of Maasai Girls Education Fund, which is a nonprofit organization that provides scholarships for young Maasai girls. And with their help, she became the first girl in her village to graduate from high school. And with their continued support, she went on and obtained a certificate of nursing degree, and she is now paying for tuition for her siblings and extended family members for them to go to school. And when she became estranged from her father because he took a second wife, she bought her mother some property and built her a home. Not only is she supporting her family, she's working as a volunteer for Maasai Girls Education Fund, and she's teaching community education classes and educating the village elders, the fathers, mothers, and children in the villages about some of the harmful practices that are common in the Maasai culture, such as female genital cutting, keeping girls out of school, early marriage, and she's also teaching health and education classes, HIV/AIDS prevention, reproductive health information, things that are important for healthy societies. Caroline has become a role model for young women in her village who can now see what women are capable of achieving. She is a role model for people in her culture. She's become a change agent from the inside. She's changing the culture because she has embodied the values that Dining for Women espouses of transformation through education and inspiration. It's been a true honor to know Caroline. You might think, as a co-founder of an organization called Dining for Women, that I like to cook. But the truth is, I really hate cooking. The inspiration for Dining for Women had absolutely nothing to do with enjoying preparing food. It came in 2002. I read an article about a group of social workers who would get together over potluck dinners just because they like to stay connected. And each person would make a donation in the amount of what they might have spent had they eaten in a restaurant. And then they would take that collective amount and they would give to an underprivileged family in their community. And I remember thinking what a brilliant idea that was. And then I filed it away in the recesses of my mind like we want to do. And months later, I was hit. It was like a lightning bolt or a jolt of electricity, literally, that I wanted to raise money for women and girls living in extreme poverty in developing countries. So for my 43rd birthday, I had a potluck dinner. And I invited about 25 of my friends. And we raised $750 that night for an organization called Women for Women International. And Dining for Women, the international nonprofit organization I have today, began on that night. My commitment to global women's empowerment continued, and that's what led me to that trip to Kenya in 2010, where I met Caroline. Since that fateful evening, Dining for Women, as we named it, has grown into an international giving circle. We have chapters all over the world that meet, just like that original article I read, over potluck dinners or lunches or brunches or wine and cheese or tea and cookies. And each person donates what they would have spent if they'd eaten in a restaurant. Our average donation is about $35 per person. And then we take that collective amount from all of our members in all of our chapters around the world, and those donations become the grants that we give to the organizations that we're funding. We collectively give between $50,000 and $60,000 a month through this inspirational, innovative method of collective giving. Education is really, really important at these dinners. So we provide educational materials about the country where the project is working, about the specific issue that the project is addressing, about the specific budget and what it will cover so that we know exactly where our money is going. And that educational model engages people to want to invest in high-impact programs that have a profound difference in the lives of women and girls living around the world. We envision a world where millions of lives have been transformed because Dining for Women is rising to meet what we feel is the moral challenge of our time, assuring gender equality for millions. Dining for Women's model provides a platform for personal and global transformation because at its core, Dining for Women is about connection and inspiration. It's about the connection that we feel with each other and the women we serve, as well as the inspiration that we feel when we realize how much good, how much impact our collective giving dollars have. Each one of the icons on that screen represents a place where Dining for Women has funded a project. Our mission is exclusively international. We fund only US-based organizations with projects in developing countries because studies show and thought leaders know that by investing in women, by increasing their access to health care, access to education, and economic opportunity, that we can really reduce global poverty and empower individuals. But when you empower a woman, you're not just empowering her, you're empowering her entire family. And that leads to the empowerment of her community and her society and ultimately her nation. So the roadmap for my presentation today is to discuss more specifically how global women's empowerment creates stable families and societies. And to discuss, I want to talk about only three of the dozens, almost 100 programs that Dining for Women has funded over the last 11 years and look at some of the impact that we've had. And then I want to give you some ideas for how you can get involved in global women's empowerment when you get excited about realizing the difference that women can make around the world. Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General, said, "There is no development strategy more beneficial to society as a whole, women and men alike, than the one which involves women as central players." You know, whenever I talk about Dining for Women, the question that is most often asked is, why do we fund exclusively international organizations? Because there is plenty of poverty right here in the United States, and that's true. But Dining for Women wants to promote equality in the areas of the world where it's the most lacking, where women's human rights are denied flagrantly, and where women have absolutely no voice or self-determination, because that's where you're going to find the highest level of poverty. And we focus on areas of extreme poverty, which the United Nations defines as less than $1.25 a day. And you might be surprised to learn that more than 85% of charitable donations that Americans make stay right here in the United States. Very few international or philanthropic dollars actually make it to international causes. And the money that does go to international causes, only a tiny, tiny fraction go to the grassroots organizations that work on behalf of women and girls. And then the last reason that we focus internationally is that's our mission. That was part of the original inspiration back in 2003, and our mission is our mission is our mission. I mean, we don't ask the American Heart Association why they don't fund kidney research, right? People say that's our mission, that's our mission. You have to be, I've learned it really helps to stay targeted and focused in order to see success and impact in the long run. Gender discrimination in developing countries looks really, really different from gender discrimination in the United States. I recently had the pleasure of listening to Senator Olympia Snowe talk about her 3 terms in the Senate. And she was discussing women's issues that had come before her that they had deliberated on. And she mentioned the Lilly Ledbetter Act, Equal Pay Amendment, Paycheck Fairness Act, family leave, those kinds of things. The gender gap in the United States does absolutely have a profound effect on our lives, there's no doubt. In fact, Maria Shriver in the Center for American Progress came out with a report in the fall of last year that pointed out that if the gender gap between men and women in the United States was closed, that would result in a decrease in the poverty rate for working women and their families of 50%. It's huge. So the gender gap in the United States does have profound impact. I mean, I was raised by a mom who was the single wage earner, and she was raised in a family that was only going to send her older brother to college. And so she married at age 17, and then she divorced when I was 7 years old, and she ended up putting herself through college and getting her PhD with 3 young girls. Life was not easy, but we were never hungry or physically unsafe. And then I myself, as a young divorced single mother, also knew poverty and insecurity. And I know that there are a plethora of safety nets in place in the United States for people who need them, from health care to food programs to battered women's shelters, any number of things. You know, many struggle, and poverty is ugly, whether it's on the streets of Washington, D.C., or if it's in the trash dumps of Pune, India. The thing is that for millions and millions of girls around the world, the safety nets that we have the benefit of simply don't exist. There are no safety nets for them, which has devastating effects. It can literally mean the difference between life and death. For example, the World Bank issued a report in 2012 which stated that every single year, 4 million women and girls just simply disappear as a direct result of gender discrimination, from infanticide or neglect or bride burnings or honor killings or sex trafficking or mass rape. So to put that number in perspective, my home state of South Carolina has a population of 4 million people. Los Angeles has a population of 4.3 million people. And when we talk about the Holocaust, we talk about 6 million people losing their lives. That number, 4 million people disappearing, is difficult to comprehend, but it's very, very real. And this statistic really gripped me when I read it in Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Wu-Dunn's book, Half the Sky. More women have been killed in the last 50 years just because they're women than all of the men who have been killed in all of the world wars in the 20th century combined. Just let that sink in. It's absolutely astounding. So all around the globe, women's human rights are denied at every turn, from lack of access to maternal health care, education, and economic opportunity. In his new book, A Call to Action, Women, Religion, Violence, and Power, former President Jimmy Carter describes seeing profound gender discrimination in his travels around the world doing humanitarian work with his organization, the Carter Center. He observed, whenever men are plagued with poverty, disease, or persecution, the women are suffering more. When there's a shortage of food or limited access to education, the men and boys have first priority. When there are few opportunities for jobs or desirable positions in any facet of life, they are rarely filled by women. Dining for Women is committed to a world where instead of being seen as someone's property, to be betrothed, sold, raped, or abused, that a girl is valued, educated, safe, and empowered. As dire and distressing as the statistics that I just read are, there is hope, and I'm really excited to share that there is inspiring work going on, that increasingly people are becoming aware of the benefits of investing in women and the impact that those investments can make, because the impacts spread quickly and they take root for the long haul. Did you know that women reinvest 90% of all of their resources back in their families and their communities? And that leads to a ripple effect, because women have resources. When women have resources, they educate their children and they provide health care, which creates healthier, more stable societies. Angel Gurria, the Secretary General of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, say that 10 times in a hurry, says that women are the most underutilized asset in the world's economy. Only by ensuring that women everywhere have the opportunity to become active economic agents can we create stable prosperity, healthy societies, and a hopeful future. Well, you ask, if it's that easy and it's that obvious, why isn't everybody investing in women's programs? And it's not difficult, but the thing is that it's not obvious. The job of Dining for Women, and why I am so excited to be talking to you today, is because it's so important to raise awareness about the level of gender discrimination and the impact that that has on global poverty, and how the reverse is true, that by investing in women and giving them opportunity, how much we can reduce global poverty. Because we know that when we invest in women, we literally can change everything. Now I'm really excited to have an opportunity to tell you about a few of the programs that Dining for Women has funded. I want to talk about a maternal health program, a girls' education program, and an economic development program. As a former obstetrics nurse, I especially love maternal child programs like the one that I'm going to tell you about, called One Heart Worldwide. If we're going to be talking about creating stable families, it makes sense that we start with making sure that mothers and babies survive childbirth and that they can go on to have healthy, productive lives. One Heart believes that every mother deserves a baby to cradle, not a tiny body to bury. But for women in developing countries all around the world, death related to childbirth is really, really high. In fact, maternal death related to complications of pregnancy and childbirth are 1,000 times higher for women in poor countries than they are for women in the West. And this is a startling statistic. The biggest cause of death for girls between ages 15 to 19-year-olds globally is pregnancy and childbirth. And more than 800 women every single day, that's practically a jumbo jet full, die as a result of preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth. So it's a tremendous problem, but there is hope. There was a recent report, a combined report from the World Health Organization, the World Bank, and UNICEF that showed that between 1990 and 2010, the rate of maternal death fell 50%. So progress is being made. We are seeing reduction in needless deaths. And One Heart Worldwide is working to make sure that that continues. But still, one woman every 90 seconds is dying as a result of complications of pregnancy and childbirth. And 99% of those globally occur in rural areas, in poor countries, in unsanitary conditions where a woman has absolutely no one there to be with her, to assist her during delivery. Can you imagine? One Heart Worldwide is an organization whose mission is decreasing needless maternal and infant deaths. They work in Nepal and Mexico, and they create what they call a safety network of safety around mothers and babies by providing community awareness about how important it is to get prenatal care, have your delivery attended by someone who's skilled in assisting, and to try to make it to a birthing center if possible. And they also distribute medical equipment and supplies along with doing the training. One Heart Worldwide trains these skilled birthing attendants and community health workers to work with women in their villages and gain their trust and teach them the things they need to know, and then be there for them when they go into labor and when they intervene and demonstrate that they can help prevent a death. Then the trust level increases and they gain more traction and more traction. The results have been absolutely astonishing. In the 2 districts in Nepal where One Heart is working, just by training skilled birthing attendants and increasing awareness, they've seen decreases in maternal and infant mortality by 80%. That's absolutely a huge number. Sunita, the young woman on the left in the white scarf, is a master trainer with One Heart Worldwide, and I met her in 2011 on a trip to Nepal. She was born into a family of 5 girls, and in Nepal, girls typically do not work outside the home, but she was bound and determined to show that she could be a wage earner and that she could support her family. So she did get to nursing school and became a nurse, and then had the opportunity to start working with One Heart Worldwide. And now she has become a role model for the girls in her village, and she's putting her sisters through school. Does this sound familiar? When women are empowered, they provide educational assistance for everybody else in their families. And she's helping change people's minds about women, what women and girls are capable of. The next program I want to talk to you about is an education program. You know, you all are probably aware that women are enrolling in the United States in higher education in greater numbers than ever before, and they're receiving more degrees than men are, and in a lot of specialties, their enrollment outnumbers men, because we know that education changes lives. And it changes lives for women in developing countries too. But tragically, millions of women and girls around the world are denied access to education. Did you know that out of the 792 million illiterate adults in the world, that 2/3 of them are women? Or that 33 million more girls than boys are kept out of school? And that is strictly a result of gender discrimination, despite the fact that studies show that there is no force more powerful in transforming a society than investing in girls' education. Because it's been proven that when girls have access to education, that it increases their overall lifetime wages, that it delays the age at which they marry, it decreases the number of children that they have, and that the children they do have are healthier and live longer, and it increases the overall GDP of the country. And educated mothers are more likely to send their own children to school. So there are many, many education programs I could tell you about that Dining for Women has funded, but one that's especially dear to my heart is called Starfish One by One. Starfish One by One works with indigenous Mayan girls in Guatemala. Did you know that fewer than 5% of the indigenous girls in Guatemala ever graduate from primary school? That's just such a low number. So Starfish One by One provides access to scholarships, peer support, and mentoring to help girls get all the way through high school and into the university level. The project that Dining for Women supported was called the Bridge Program. And the Bridge Program works with girls from 6th grade to 12th grade. It provides them with a peer support group, professional adult mentors, opportunities to have professional internships, and they help them plot their track to university. And their outcomes have been absolutely so exciting. 95% of the girls enrolled in the Starfish program stay in school. 66% of their graduates are going on to university, and more than 85% of their graduates are working outside the home. Hieronyma is an example of a Starfish graduate who was the first girl in her village to graduate from high school. She was born into a family with 9 siblings, only 5 of which lived, and it's very typical for Mayan girls to start school late. So she started primary school when she was 9 years old. And then when she got to middle school, one of the classes she was to enroll in didn't even start because of lack of enrollment. And then by the time the school opened back up, that grade level for her, her family had lost the motivation to send her to school because there is a double burden for indigenous girls in Guatemala. The burden of the cost of school, tuition and fees, and the burden of lost labor at home. Their families are used to having those girls at home and working and marrying early. And most of their parents are illiterate. So Starfish One by One helped her finish middle school and get into high school. And do you know, in 11th grade, she started a literacy program for mothers and women in her village. And then when she graduated from high school in 2011, now she has become a mentor to 15 other young women who are blazing the trail that she just went down herself. And she's going to school at the university on weekends to get her degree in social work. Imagine the transformation of a culture where indigenous women who have historically previously been illiterate are educated and working and inspiring younger generations of girls to succeed. That is the power of educating girls. Now, economic development. Oh gosh, the benefits of economic empowerment of women are huge, huge, huge. A recent study of global workforce data gathered by the International Labor Organization showed a very, very, very strong correlation between women's economic participation and a country's general economic well-being. And the benefits are not limited to economics. It also showed broader gains for the society as a whole, including economic prosperity, but also health, childhood development, security, and freedom. In fact, in the areas where women's growth in the labor market has been the fastest, those are the areas that see the fastest reduction in poverty. In the next 10 years, 1 billion women are poised to enter the workforce, but 85% of them are not in a position to take advantage of economic opportunity. Can you imagine if those 1 billion women had access to empowerment, education, and employment, what they could do? They would have an economic impact similar to either the economies of India or China, each of which have populations of 1 million people. So the project that Dining for Women funded that I want to tell you about is called BOMA Project. And they work in northern Kenya with extremely poor population of people whose lifestyle has historically been nomadic. But because of climate change and terrible drought that killed off much of their livestock, the men now are having to travel huge distances to get the animals to grazing land, and the women and children are left behind to rely on humanitarian aid or very erratic menial labor. And what BOMA Project does with their specific name of the project is called the Rural Entrepreneur Access Project. And they identify business mentors in these communities who work with groups of women, 3 women each group, that start businesses. And then those mentors follow the women groups and the businesses for up to 2 years to monitor their progress and success. Since BOMA started working in northern Kenya, they have launched 1,973 businesses, and this has resulted in lifting 38,000 people out of extreme poverty, which was defined as $1.25 a day. And even more exciting, 3 years later, 97% of those businesses are still thriving, and the families have seen an 80% increase in the number of children that are enrolled in school. Marsha is one of the BOMA business owners, and she tells the story of starting this business. Now, this is a picture of her business. It's a kiosk. It's made of nothing more than sticks and animal skins. When we talk about launching businesses, we are not talking like Main Street with plate glass windows and signs and awnings. But this is a thriving business. They sell maize flour, cooking oil, beans, rice, batteries, even lollipops, surprisingly enough. And so when she and her 2 business partners launched this business, her father and the men in the village were making fun of them. Oh, what can you do with this business? But then her dad needed to get money to send her brother to school, and he couldn't find anyone to buy the goat that he was trying to sell in order to raise the tuition. So he came to Marsha and he said, "Girl, is there anything in this business that you have that could help?" So she went and she conferred with her 2 business partners, and they agreed to provide a loan that would enable her brother to go to school. So her father went straight to the village shrine and stood in the middle of the village, and he said to the men, "We have seen what these women can do. Please tell the men of this village to support their women who are in these businesses. They should show them respect. No man should underestimate the strength of these women." Yes. I just love that story. And imagine that multiplied thousands of times, not just in BOMA projects, but in all of the economic development projects that are successful, that are empowering women to change their communities. And these are just 3 of almost 100 projects that Dining for Women has funded. But the thing is that there are hundreds and hundreds of other high-impact organizations out there doing amazing work on behalf of women and girls that Dining for Women doesn't have the resources to fund. So that is another reason that I'm so eager to see growth in awareness about the importance of addressing gender discrimination so that more people in the United States will get involved and help make a difference. Because Dining for Women's model is a very easy way to get involved in making a difference. When we connect with each other and with the women we serve, we are transforming lives. I agree with Nicholas Kristof, who said that the global empowerment of women worldwide is the moral challenge of our time. In the 1800s, it was slavery, and then in the 1900s, it was totalitarianism and civil rights, and now it is the global empowerment of women. This is a picture of a Dining for Women member with one of our program participants on a trip. And you can see the joy on their faces and the connections that we make. It will take all of us, men and women alike, working together to create a more just and equitable world that will create more stable families and healthier societies, which ultimately leads to a more prosperous and peaceful world. You can become part of this movement of assuring gender equality for millions of women and girls worldwide, and then you become inspired and transformed in the process as well. The first thing that I would encourage you to do is to learn more about the challenges for women and girls around the world. I would be happy to send you a list of resources of books to read or documentaries to watch. Our website is a wealth of information of projects that are doing amazing work. And once you just start looking, you'll find a lot of information. Then, when you learn something new, share it with someone else. Because you were just talking earlier about advocacy being raising awareness, telling the story, making other people aware. I cannot underestimate the power of awareness in addressing this problem. And then last, get involved somehow. We would love to have you join a Dining for Women chapter or start a chapter, but there are certainly literally hundreds of programs that address the needs of women and girls around the world that would love to have your efforts and attention, volunteer time, advocacy efforts, just any number of ways to get involved and make a difference. Because we all do have the power to make a difference. Dining for Women's model, with the small amount of giving, to learn so much and be part of, it's a process of giving, not just an act of giving, is very, very profound. Because we know what happens. When we invest in women, we change everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle, Marsha, I'm sorry. We appreciate the important work that you and Dining for Women have done to empower women and girls across the globe. I'm honored to present the 21st Century Community Champion Award for 2014 from our association's inception at the Lake Placid Conference. We focused on community. The 21st Century Community Champion Award was established in 2001 to recognize groups and organizations and companies that promote the connection between strong families and strong communities. Through community activities in which families are valued, supported, and strengthened, past recipients of this award have included the Annie E. Casey Foundation, Dr. David Matthews of the Kettering Foundation, Sears Roebuck and Company, America's Second Harvest, and the Dibble Institute. This year, it gives me great pleasure to present the 21st Century Community Champion Award for 2014 to So Much Comfort Organization. So Much Comfort was created in 2004 when Ginger Dostadel and Michelle Cuppy realized there was significant need to provide adaptive clothing for wounded soldiers. The partners started out with a goal to sew 100 pairs of fixator pants that were custom designed to accommodate the various needs of wounded soldiers. Word soon spread, and the organization now has 950 volunteers across the United States and Europe who have donated more than 460,000 hours. So Much Comfort is the only organization that provides especially designed adapted clothing free of charge to wounded servicemen and women at major hospitals in the United States and in Germany. Volunteers donate their time, their energy, and money to purchase the fabric needed to make the garments. They also help raise funds for the organization, which has rapidly increased in size over the years. In 2006, So Much Comfort received top honors from Newman's Own Award. Michelle and Ginger were invited to the White House and personally thanked by President Bush for their work and dedication to our nation's veterans. Since their founding in 2004, So Much Comfort has created and distributed over 134,140 pieces of adapted clothing to those in need. AAFCS is honored to welcome Michelle Cuppy to accept the 21st Century Community Champion Award on behalf of the So Much Comfort organization.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
I want to thank you for having Linda and I here. We've had a lot of fun in St. Louis. And I want to thank Donna Butterfield for nominating us and putting in the application for us to receive this honorary award. It is amazing. When we started So Much Comfort in 2004, I had no idea we'd be here 10 years later and how great the need really was, and how many amazing people have such big hearts that want to give back to our service members. There are many, many organizations giving care packages and sending food over there, but we are the only organization that is providing adaptive clothing, which is a very simple concept, where we make normal-looking attire, athletic shorts, boxers, and t-shirts, and add Velcro to it that open up so that the service member has something else to wear besides a hospital gown while they're laying in their bed. One of the things that we've learned from this war is that, in Vietnam, 90% of the veterans passed away because they didn't have the facilities to get the help. Now in Iraq and Afghanistan, you can be wounded and be back in Germany or even stateside within 12 hours. What we have done is we developed the body armor that is protecting all the lungs and the hearts and things like that, but what's happening is that they are losing their limbs, their legs, their eyes, and things like that. And what we want to do at So Much Comfort is just to provide a little bit of comfort and dignity as they recover from their injuries so that they feel a little bit more homely, more at home by wearing the athletic shorts, the t-shirts, and looking a little bit more normal. And I can't tell you how amazed I am at how many volunteers have come through. When we did first start it, like she said, we were going to do just 100 pair of fixators and be all done. And what happened is I got a call from somebody that says that they would like to do an article for us in So News magazine. And I thought, oh, cool, I've never been in a magazine before. This should be fun. What we didn't realize is that we were going to get 500 volunteers from across the United States that said, I want to help, sign me up, how do I do it? And we kind of said, holy crap, I don't know, let's figure this out. And at the time, I had my business and I was doing my thing, but it was just kind of like, it's just amazing what a difference it makes and how heartwarming it is to hear from a service member. It's just like, wow, I can't believe how much you helped me when I was getting better. I had met a service member who was in law school, and I actually met him out in San Diego, and he just kept staring at me at my name tag, and I'm just like, getting kind of paranoid, and he's just like, why do I know you? And I said, I don't think I've met you, but I said, had you worn adaptive clothing before? He says, no, I don't even know what you're talking about. Half hour later, John comes up to me, he goes, I did wear your clothing. He said, I was in law school, one of the few people that had to stay there for 6 days. I had nothing but infections, and I had a fixator on. I was feeling sorry for myself, and I just wanted to die. And he said, I didn't realize that I was not the only one. One of our ambassadors had bought a pair of pants to him, laid it on his bed because he said he wanted nothing to do with it, and she says, I'm just going to leave these here. If you want to put it on, go for it. A nurse came in later and said, I'm going to help you put these on, and you're going to get in a wheelchair, and you're going to start going out and about. He put on the pair of pants, went in the wheelchair, realized he was not the only one that was wounded. There were a lot of other people that were struggling just like he was. He said, I just felt better. I felt that I needed the confidence to get better for my wife and my daughter who were back home and expected me back home. And he said, the nurse said they could never find him again because he was getting dressed, getting in his wheelchair and going out and about. So, and it's heartwarming stories like that that keep us all going. And it's just a simple thing, opening up clothing, giving back a little bit of dignity for these service members who have given so much for us and our freedom. And we will continue doing this for as long as they need us, but the good news is that the number of women has decreased. We used to be sending out about 1,000 pieces a month. We're probably down to sending out 200 pieces because that's all that's needed. And so after the 10, 11 years of war, it's finally nice to see that it's going down. And hopefully it will. But we'll still be here for as long as they need it. And it's an honor to be part of such a wonderful organization with so many heartwarming volunteers. And I want to thank Donna again for nominating us. And we had the pleasure the one year she made Teacher of the Year to have them sew, her sewing class sew things for us. And it was an honor to actually talk to the students and to, give them something to do. And so this is very exciting, and I thank you guys for having us and for the honor of this award.
And now I'd like to call Student Unit Chair Melanie Tua to the stage.
As we close our Capstone General Session, let's take this opportunity to begin looking toward our 106th Conference and Expo the next year. In doing so, I'd like to welcome to the stage Lina Ingraham and Eleanor Caban from Florida to share with us some important information on the location of the next conference in Jacksonville, Florida.
You can see we have fun. We've enjoyed meeting a lot of you as you came by our booth, and you know that Florida is the sunshine state, so you're going to need a hat. When you think of Florida, you usually think of Miami or Daytona Beach or even Disney. But what you may not know is that Jacksonville is the largest city in Florida. It's the 12th largest city in the United States and the largest city in square miles in the continental United States. Jacksonville is where Florida begins. We have over 21 miles of white sandy beaches that are all free, and they're only a few miles from our hotel, which is located right on the St. Johns River. So Jacksonville is called the River City by the Sea. We also have 41 miles of intercoastal waterway, so it's easily accessible. Our hotel, the Hyatt Regency, is located on the St. Johns River, so you'll be able to go out and walk the river walk, 2 miles of river walk, when you come to the conference next year. We have a wonderful Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens, It's one of the top 9 animal attractions in the United States. The Cummer Museum and Gardens, as well as other museums of art, science, and history, one of the best park systems in the United States, boasting more parks per capita than any other large city. There are over 30 medical facilities, including Mayo Clinic. The city of St. Augustine is only 30 miles away and is having its 450th commemoration next year, so you won't want to miss that. There's so much more, but we want to show you a short video.
Jacksonville, where Florida begins. No need to go any further. Here's a place you can find it all. Over 20 miles of clean, uncrowded beaches, a beautiful riverfront downtown, great restaurants, family attractions, golf courses, kayaking, nightlife, and shopping. If your idea of vacation involves a beach, Jacksonville has the beach for you. Whether you prefer reading a book while working on your tan, strolling the water's edge with your kids, or surfing and parasailing, you could do it all here. Among the area beaches are Mayport, Atlantic, Neptune, and Jacksonville Beach, which features a 1,000-foot fishing pier custom-built for fishermen and sightseer. You can also choose to explore the beaches and river waterways by marine taxi, a fishing charter, or by kayak. Done with the beach or just looking for something else to do? There's plenty to choose from. Take the family to Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. Join an afternoon tour of the Budweiser Brewery. Pick up tickets to the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra. If golf is your passion, choose from world-class courses, including Travel and Leisure's #1, the TPC Sawgrass. Jax is also home to the largest urban park system in the country, where visitors can explore on foot the city's history, wildlife, and nature. Jack's Dining blends inspired casual elegance and classic Southern comfort. Choose from upscale locales like Bistro X, a city hip restaurant with seasonally inspired menu and a passion for wines. Or innovative and elegant 4-diamond rated locales like Matthew's. Or order a plate of fried shrimp at the River City Brewing Company and enjoy the riverfront. Shopping is an important element of some people's vacations, and Jacksonville has just the right choice for any taste and budget. Whether you're looking for a bargain at any of the area's many outlet centers, hunting for vintage and antiques at 5 Points or Avonlea Antiques, or in search of upscale merchandise at San Marco and Avondale, you won't leave empty-handed. You can also find just about any modern retailer at the Avenues or St. John's Town Center.
It has pretty much everything you could possibly want. Fabulous shopping, fabulous dining, and a great place for the locals to go out at night.
When it comes to places to stay, you can choose from sleek upscale beachside resorts just steps away from Atlantic Beach. There are luxury downtown hotels and any number of welcoming bed and breakfasts. We've also got plenty of hotels conveniently located near all of our major attractions. Come discover for yourself what you have been missing and experience firsthand a special place.
Jacksonville has a lot to offer, from our beaches to our great river to ecotourism, kayaking, biking, certainly a lot of parks and recreation area for the family.
Jacksonville, where Florida begins.
Jacksonville is where Florida begins, and we hope that you will want to join us at the 106th Annual Conference in Jacksonville next year, June 24th to 27th at the Hyatt Regency Hotel on the beautiful St. Johns River. Thank you. Y'all come.
This brings our Capstone General Session to a close. For those of you who've been with us online, I hope you enjoyed this session, this broadcast, and that you will decide to join us in Jacksonville next year. I have a few announcements, however, at this time for our St. Louis attendees. For those of you who are attending the Pacesetter dinner this evening, I'd like to remind you that the doors will open for general seating at 7 p.m. In order to facilitate everyone being seated promptly, we ask that you not save seats for someone who's not in attendance with your party at that time. I also want to remind you to please bring your dinner ticket, which is in your registration packet. As we close this session, we'd like to share with you a very special video that's been created during our time here in St. Louis. And I hope that you have enjoyed your stay and that you are happy that you have included AAFCS in your annual conference in your professional development activities this year. When the video plays, feel free to get up and dance along as we celebrate our time here in St. Louis and we look ahead to 2015 and Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind when I think of you sometime, and I want to spend some time with you, just the two